Welcome back to the Lantech Link podcast, and thanks for tuning in to today's episode. In today's episode, our topic is just-in-time and made-to-order manufacturing. So we're going to take a look at how HM Manufacturing has utilized new technologies and softwares on their shop floor to minimize their bottlenecks and maximize their output. More specifically, our guest today is Nicole Wolter, the CEO and president of HM Manufacturing, to kind of help us understand how they navigated their way through a tough time to build their shop up, expand their operations, and ultimately expand the industries that they serve. So this is very informative, very good information. If you are a job shop yourself looking to utilize more machine time and just can't quite figure out how, I'd stay tuned and see how Nicole has done it with HM Manufacturing. I'm going to go to a short break here, and then we'll dive into our interview. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to the Lantech Link podcast, linking manufacturing professionals with industry experts. I'm your host Kevin Must with Lantech Systems, and today I am joined by Nicole Wolter, President and CEO at HM Manufacturing. Welcome to the Lantech Link podcast, and thanks for taking the time to speak with me today, Nicole.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.
Before we get into what HM Manufacturing does, and kind of your systems, I'd like to give our listeners a little bit of a background of yourself and the company as a whole. So we'll start off. What's your educational and professional background?
So my background is in chemical engineering and finance. I had no manufacturing experience until I came on board in 2009. With that, it led me to get extensive training on manual lathes and milling machines. And I'm also certified in CAD/CAM and 3D modeling. So I have officially adapted the manufacturing side of things.
Nice. Yeah, I would think you'd have to. Being a president and CEO, it might be a little difficult to keep everyone in line if you don't necessarily know exactly what they're talking about technically.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So you said that you started with HM Manufacturing in 2009, correct?
Yeah, it was the latter half of 2009 when I joined, correct.
Okay, and then doing my due diligence and some research prior to, I see this is a family operated shop. Did you work with them or in the shop at all, like through high school or while you're getting your education through college?
No, my dad didn't want me. I just don't think that he saw me as like a good fit for the manufacturing business he has. But it wasn't until the recession hit and I was coming out of college that he thought, well, you know what? You've got the gift of gab. You like to talk. You like sales. I need you. I need your help. And but before I came to HM, he wanted me to go get kicked around a bit. So I went down the finance route in downtown Chicago and developed a very thick skin. And that definitely helped for coming in here and trying to make waves, essentially.
Yeah, I would think finance in Chicago, especially during the recession time, would build some thick skin for you. That's kind of funny, too. That's similar to how my family operates is, hey, go out, figure out what you want to do, and then come back to me. Thicken up your skin a little bit.
Oh, and then come with some real professional skills, right? Because when you're in college, you don't really adapt those skills. So I think it's super important to go work for somebody and learn what it is to be in the outside world and learn how to deal with different personalities and have to turn things in on time and have more responsibility at that.
Yeah, and to that too, to kind of see how others work as well. If you're always working underneath your family or, you grew up with them, you've seen it. So you've already learned that aspect of it. Now I can see an outside source and how they operate, which may be a little different. So then for, HM manufacturing, what do you guys specialize in for your customers?
It's definitely changed over the years. In the beginning, we were primarily a custom made to order manufacturing facility for gears and pulleys. And in the past few years, we've become a turnkey provider for power transmission components, definitely in the aerospace, automotive, medical, marine, packaging, and food and beverage processing industries. And that also includes custom gearboxes, assemblies, shivs, shafts, and splines, as well as the pulleys and gears. So we've adapted a bigger product line at the same time.
Wow, that's it sounds like you guys have quite a bit of growth happening over there at HM Manufacturing. That's good to hear.
Yeah, that's what we're trying.
Yeah, and I believe I saw something too that you've started a kind of online store or online ordering system for customers.
I did. So I developed an e-commerce site to kind of drive traffic to our website. Since we are a custom made to order facility, everybody that's doing pulleys and gears that is more stock driven, they were just beating me out with getting the top Google searches. So I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of combat that with offering more stock items that everyone produces, like pulley stock and gear stock. And that way it definitely helped with the SEO and getting the traffic to my site.
Huh. Very nice. Very wise of you to think, hey, we got to switch this somehow to get up there SEO wise and be more relevant.
Yes.
Okay. So, that kind of takes us in then to more of the meat of today's podcast, which is made to order or just in time suppliers and, some challenges, bottlenecks, and successes that you've dealt with just in your time with HM or what you've seen as well in the industry. So, kind of speaking strictly to HM, what would you say are the biggest challenges that you guys face as a made-to-order supplier?
It's a few things. It's capacity, employees, and being short-staffed, and then scheduling, which can definitely turn into bottlenecks. Like those are my 3 to 4 big issues that I deal with on a daily basis.
Okay. And, so you kind of mentioned employees and being short-staffed. Is that a matter of the skills gap that majority, if not all, manufacturers are dealing with right now?
I think so. I've had a couple people who have been with me for a few years, and then they just got tired of being in the industry and they wanted to just get out. And then I got a whole new wave of young kids. Like I have a young crew out in my shop. So I think the youngest is in like 20 and the oldest is probably in their mid 40s. And the problem that I do have is bridging that gap. So I'm a part of a lot of advisory boards for high schools, and they do have a great and significant manufacturing program. But what I'm seeing is that they're taking these programs as an elective, and it's really hard to get them to bridge the gap between thinking that this is an elective versus this is a full-time career.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of internships, but that's also hard too because of training and yeah, I'm short-staffed, and no matter what I do to try to get more of these guys in here or just anybody in general, it's hard because a lot of them come without any experience, and that takes a lot of capital to get them to understand a lot of these machines and be able to hit the ground running.
Yeah. And I mean, even with the internships, they're great. It's just tough on you as, the CEO president to, all right, I've got to take this much time to train you. And then by the time you're trained on our systems and what we do, your internship is over. And I really hope that you come back.
And we may never see you again.
Yeah, exactly. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please come back.
Yeah.
It's tough because
like you're begging for them.
Yeah.
And it really makes it tough because you put all your resources and dedicate that time toward them and hoping that they'll bring it back or come back once they're in that workforce. And yeah, I couldn't even imagine trying to combat that. That's definitely something that we see with a lot of manufacturers in today's day and age is the skills gap. But it sounds, with that younger crew, that sounds nice because they may be more willing to learn new technologies, and more forward with that, as opposed to maybe having a staff that's getting closer to retirement age and I've got 2 more years. Why am I going to learn something new?
Which you bring up such a great point, because a lot of these kids that are doing the internships and the apprenticeship programs, they see the younger guys, and I think they feel like it's more relevant to them, that they see themselves in these guys because they're younger and they can relate. And also, yeah, they like the new technology. They're all about the company culture. They understand it. They get it. And it definitely makes it easier to kind of sell that.
Yeah. Yeah. And with how accessible, with the internet and how accessible it is to train yourself on stuff. Obviously it's nice to go through a certification course. But, sometimes there's times that you just got to go and do it on your own. And with how easy it is now, I'm seeing that more people are willing to, learn one thing, but then train themselves on a different trade or different aspects of it just to be more well-rounded and better utilized. So then with the scheduling problems, when you speak of the scheduling problems, is that scheduling of like when you get orders coming in to schedule out the times on the machines, or more so scheduling of employees?
Well, it wouldn't be a scheduling of employees. I'm only one shift. It ends up being the scheduling of the products we're making. Okay. And since we're custom and we're made to order, there's definitely a lot of shuffling of the decks daily, depending on machine capacity, and trying to look and see if I can put it in a different machine that doesn't have such a big backlog. So it's a juggling act. And it's one that we deal with on a daily basis, because everyone wants things yesterday. And in order to stay competitive and keep your clients happy, which is really hard to do these days, you kind of just have to promise them almost insane lead times. So my guys are working a lot. We're on an average about 58 hours a week. And that kind of brings up the capacity issue of I'm in that awkward adolescent stage of I could use a second shift, but since we're not necessarily a contract manufacturer yet, we do have some contracts and in Kanban style purchase orders. It's really difficult because as other manufacturers know, with a second and third shift, you really do have to ramp up and make sure that you have the right foreman and manager as well as employees. But the problem is like I could use a second shift for about a month, and then what happens after that? Like I'm not at that point where it's a long-term ordeal.
Yeah, steady second shift to keep people on. So then kind of speaking to that, I mean, how are you currently analyzing your production or capacity times quickly enough to be able to accept those orders of people that wanted them yesterday? Or, be able to prioritize, obviously, by ship date or, in hand date. How do you analyze those?
So the best thing that HM ever did, I hate to say ever, but like it's just something that I'm so proud of, and I'm so happy we just implemented this, is the ERP system. I don't think we could have survived the amount of work we're doing and adding on to our customer list without it. So having the ERP system and seeing what's coming up to bat, and being able to see what the backlogs are on each machine and how much they have time-wise, and where it's red and where it's green, and being able to shift it around has been instrumental to keeping our lead times down and keeping the customers happy. So because it gets scanned in, you have real live time accounting, essentially, of where your parts are.
Yeah, I mean, that's that crucial shift that we're seeing now is you've got the data, now you got to figure out how to bring it all together to best enhance your productions.
Yeah, and it's hard because we have some jobs that only require 3 different stages, and then there's others that require up to 10 different processes. So having to figure out, okay, well, every time that it goes for heat treating, or it has to be ground, or it has to go back in the lathe, or it has to go back into the mill. That's obviously added lead time. And so those were going to get scheduled before the ones that only have 3 different processes. So that's also been a juggling act too. But it's great to have a good support team that understands how the company works in itself, how the CADs are all implemented and the assembly, and just having the right staff, I think is crucial along with this ERP system.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, too, just being able to account for some contingencies as well. You know, maybe a machine goes down, and oh man, if you had to do all that by paper scheduling, that could really put a wrench in things. But you know, I think with the ERP system, it really helps to account for those specific issues that may arise.
And that's what it does, and it's great to have that. And another thing that I did too was charge expedite fees. We never really did that. My dad never wanted to do that. He didn't want to offend anybody, but the problem was then everybody was crying wolf. I need it, and they really didn't need it that quickly. And so you really start to see who needs it quickly when you're adding an expedite fee. I really think that that's fair. So we were leaving a lot of money on the table by just running things quickly through, and then you tick off other customers who've been waiting longer. And so that's how we started to figure out, okay, what is really hot? Are they willing to pay an expedite fee? Yeah. Okay. Then let's get hot stickers, put them on the travelers, alert production, alert all the necessary people so that it will go through in a timely fashion, and they're paying for it at the same time, right? If we want to go fly somewhere tomorrow, we pay a premium on that.
Oh yeah. Yeah, not to mention having to pay on, you know, the added cost for expedite shipping. You know, if you want something with Amazon in 2 hours, you can get it. You may have to pay for the Prime membership, or, you know, pay for something a little extra, but that's everyday life now. How urgent is this for you? How do you really need it in 2 hours, or can you wait 2 days? That's that's a really good idea, actually. Very, very smart, and you know, just kind of shaping it out of other industries as well, what other industries are doing. If you need it quickly, then we're going to charge you for it, if you're that serious about it. So then, you know, seeing that you get these types of orders and you do made to order stuff, how do you best then combat running out of specific or commonly used materials? I'm assuming, is that all tied in inventory control with your ERP system as well?
Yeah, and it's the greatest module to have. What we do is to not backlog the machine so much that we don't create bottlenecks, because at one point in the beginning of 2017, it was so bad. We just kept getting all these bottlenecks. And then I kept seeing my account payable start to skyrocket. And so I'm looking at the bills, and I'm looking at no throughput. Nothing's getting shipped out in a timely fashion. I'm late. And at this time, we were starting to just recently implement the ERP system. And that's when I noticed that they were purchasing all this material, but it couldn't get through the shop fast enough. So the lathes were just tearing through all this material, but then there'd be a backlog at the gear hoppers and then also by the milling section. And that's when I decided, nope, we really have to get this inventory in control. And we can't just purchase material just to get it done on one side and have it sit on another. So what we did was I decided there was a couple of older machines that were just sitting idle and weren't getting used. So I turned those on. I got them retrofitted. I decided to get fixtures so that we could run these older machines. Even though it takes longer, at least I was generating throughput. And then what we started to do was look at everything and say, okay, we'll buy material every week, and kind of set that as like the standard, so that there's enough time in between to get throughput out. And I'm not just, you know, having these costly material bills just piling up and nothing's being sent out product wise. So that's been great. And then also with the inventory module, having the lower stocking limit. So when we do our flanges and assembly stuff with bearings or set screws, they have to scan that in and they have to say how many they're taking. And so for flanges, if it takes about 6 weeks, we'll make sure that we'll order at least 8 weeks out for the new replenishment once we're getting to that lower stocking limit on all things, so that we never really run out. And we don't tick off any customers because it's waiting for an ancillary bearing or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So we try to keep up to date with our inventory.
Now, is that a pretty static ordering procedure that you have, or is that something that is automated through your ERP to see you're at X threshold, or you go below X threshold, then automatically order that material from a supplier?
Yeah, thankfully that's all automated. So we'll get an alert, purchasing will get an alert, and they'll start going out for bids and for quotes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's again the great thing of having the internet and all that data at our fingertips. It makes it very easy. I don't want to say very easy, but a lot easier than having to do manual counts. Yeah, having to do manual counts every week and where are we at? What kind of orders do we have coming in? What's selling quickly? What's not? The ERP, I'm sure, helps you to break out what materials are fastest moving and which ones kind of take a while to fly off the shelves.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember we still have a parts counter and a scale out in the shop. And I remember my dad being like, okay, so what do we have to order? Let's get a flange count. And I'm like, oh, my God. This is going to take forever.
It takes a whole day.
Yeah, if not weeks.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's tying up resources that could be better used elsewhere.
Exactly.
So then, speaking to kind of before you implemented that ERP system and kind of everything that you're doing to help automate your processes, was there any job that you can recall that you were cutting it so close to deadline that you almost like called them and said, hey, we're going to have to discount this or do something to just keep them happy and make sure that they come back as a returning customer?
Oh, boy. I have one failure story that haunts me to this day. So this was the end of 2016, and it was a new customer that I have been urging to buy with us for about 8 months. And finally, the RFQ came through. They gave us the order. We're super excited. Mm-hmm. So we gave them a lead time of about 8 weeks. And it ended up being like the most nightmarish situation. Everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. We didn't order tooling on time because it was manual and all paper driven. So a couple people dropped the ball. Material wasn't ordered in time. We had a backlog in the machines and it just kind of sat there. So it ended up being we got the order in September. We did not ship until the end of December.
Ooh.
It was bad. And at that time, my dad was still the president. And his philosophy is, let's just make it right. And every time I wanted to say, no, we need to be transparent. Like my thing is I love transparency. I think a relationship is based on communication and being transparent. And I just wanted to tell him, hey, we dropped the ball. Here's what's happening. But I was overruled, and that's fine. But everything that went wrong, machines went down at that point. People were going on vacation. So people for heat treating and for plating, now it was taking longer. With the heat treat, some things came back oversized. So now we had to redo them again, which of course, adds on to the lead time and then grinding and every other thing that I could have gone wrong, like I said, just did. And they said, you had to pay for it next day air. And I was more than happy to do that. Mm-hmm. So when all was said and done, I looked at everybody. I go, this could never happen again. I was like, we need this ERP system. We need to be more accountable for each one of our jobs and divisions and make sure that at any stage that we are getting close to not fulfilling that lead time, we need to be very adamant about telling them, because they're machine builders and they schedule engineers. And so if they're having engineers on their dock that are $250 an hour and they're not receiving our parts that are going to help speed this along, it's costly on them, and it makes us just look terrible.
Yeah.
So I got a hold of him a couple weeks later to apologize, and boy, he reamed me a new one. I was expecting that. I totally understood.
Well, good thing you built that thick skin in Chicago.
Can you imagine? I know. But you know what? But as thick as it is, it hurts. Because he told me that this would have been a contract for $150,000 a year. And that stings. That really, really stings. So after that, we went straight to the ERP system. We had to shut off the other system and just go strictly to this new system. And it was crucial. Everyone seemed to change their ways because they realize it affects everybody. If you lose a big deal like that, it hurts everybody in the company. So that was a big thing. And funny enough, because I opened up a sales office in California, my new sales lady, Leanne, ended up calling this customer, and what we ended up doing was refunding them 15%. And we wanted to make good on our promise. We wanted to say, hey, we have a new system. We have spent money on new technology. We bought a couple new machines so we can handle a bigger capacity. And it's a new wave. My dad stepped down. I came on board, and it was transparency. And we're actually quoting for them again. But it took a year.
Yeah, it'll take some time for that wound to heal up a little bit, but that's good though that they're coming back and asking for some quotes from you guys again after proving, hey, we know that we messed up a little bit, but we've definitely put these systems in place to make sure that it does not happen again.
Yeah, and so besides having that system up and running, we do have production meetings every Tuesday and Friday now, so that there is no discrepancies for not being able to call the customer and say, hey, we're going to be a couple of days late, or we're going to be shipping beforehand. Do you want to take the product ahead of time? And I think that has just made us a better company overall. And I think people trust us more because we're able to offer that and be transparent and have that relationship added value to it.
Yeah, and I mean, it's good to have those meetings as well, so each department knows where everybody's at in their processes. Hey, if one department says that we're a little behind on this part of it, it's going to take us an extra half a day, then that gives another department, okay, well, we have this other order here that we can be working on in the meantime, or pick up just to keep production moving, and have that transparency just amongst your own company and employees.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that also helps with the company cultures where everyone feels useful. And I'm a big proponent of just, update me, give me ideas. What do you think could be better? I may not say yes all the time, but I think it's good to have that dialogue so that everyone feels like they're a part of something. And I think that they work better that way as well. They want to push things through faster.
Yeah, and then they start bouncing ideas off each other, or, it's just a different set of eyes. They're on the floor actually running these machines every day and seeing, okay, this is what's frustrating me. Maybe we can do something if I bring it to Nicole's attention to say, hey, maybe there's a different way of doing this or a different system. And knowing that you're receptive to that and listening to them is the big key.
Yes, very true.
Yeah, it's almost like hearing with that customer. I just recall, anytime I got in trouble as a little kid, anytime my parents said that they were upset with me, I was like, yeah, okay, you're upset. But when they said that they were disappointed, that's when it really stung. That kind of sounds like what had happened with that customer is like, yeah, we're upset, but we're more so disappointed. And then that's okay. We got to figure this out.
Yeah, and it hurts when they say, the quality was amazing and it worked out wonderfully, but you did a bad job communicating, getting to me on time, and and then it was a good lesson because everyone learned from that one. Yeah, and I think it made everybody sharper and understand what is really necessary to keep a client, especially in today's age where everyone's trying to get each other.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, trying to undercut prices and times and get it out quickest and still at the highest quality possible. And I mean, it sounded like you have them back now, or you're at least quoting for them again, and that kind of catapulted you into this next digital age of manufacturing, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, the next thing I'm trying to do is get all the machines networked up so I could look at it on an app wherever I am to see if there's any downtime or if the machine's about to be open, anything like that. I think that's the next big wave, that social network of machines.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do next.
Yeah, I mean, leveraging the IoT and being able to, because I mean, as you're being the president and CEO, I'm sure you've got a lot of travel and speaking engagements and times where you can't necessarily be behind a computer. But it'll be great to, on your phone, get some sort of notification if a machine is down or machine time opens up or whatever it may be, to be able to get that real time and hey, now I know what's happening on my shop floor and I'm not even in the shop. May even be halfway around the world.
Yeah, that's what I'd love to do. That's definitely the next thing I'm going to start pushing for.
So then what's, kind of to stay on that topic and make this the last question here, where do you see your HM manufacturing in the next 3 to 5 years on a technological scale and or growth pattern?
Technology-wise, we're definitely going to be investing in a couple pieces of machinery this year at IMTS. I'm all about adding value and capabilities for our customers. So the next wave that I'm starting to see is a lot more gear shaping and splines. So I'm going to need a gear shaper there. The next one would be another 5-axis mill, because we're doing a lot more turnkey gearboxes. I need another machine to help that capacity. So that's from the technology standpoint, especially because newer machines are going to have all the new gadgets and bells and whistles. So that'll be nice.
Be networked already pretty much.
Exactly. And it makes it much easier to do once you have a couple machines that can do that. And then for me, my 5-year plan is to have a subsidiary. My dad is now more in the R&D section, and we use it here at HM. It's a quick changeover system for the gear hobbers and the lathes. So I would like to get that up and running and have a product line outside of just the HM manufacturing power transmission components.
Wow. Sounds like you got a lot of stuff coming up for you, Nicole, for not only yourself, but HM manufacturing. And sounds very interesting. And, I look forward to hearing more from you guys and seeing you more in the news as well.
Yeah, thanks. I won't be sleeping. I'm going to be like a vampire.
Nah, we all sleep when we die, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you can think of that you'd like to speak to before we end this here?
No, I think we covered a great range, and I thank you for all your questions.
Yeah, I again appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got a very busy schedule, so appreciate you taking the time to carve out your schedule and speak with me about your operations and kind of the future in HM and kind of manufacturing as a whole. The LandTech Link podcast helps link manufacturing professionals with industry experts, providing news and insights regarding technology, education, and the economy of manufacturing in the U.S. This podcast will answer questions manufacturing professionals may have about Industry 4.0. If you would like to suggest a topic or be a guest on our show, please email Kevin Must at k.must@landtechsms.com.